Hi class, I'm going to discuss your first semester final project. In this project, we're going to be making a triptych. A triptych is a piece of art that has three parts, kind of like the letters you see above me here, A-R-T. If those were in a triptych, then they would be displayed side by side. In many churches, they have triptychs that will actually be on pieces of wood that fold up and then open up as they need to open them, and they show different aspects of the life of Christ or his death and resurrection. So I might show you some of those in class. But the kind of triptych we're going to make is going to show three types of drawing that we've been actually learning about all semester. The first one is going to be a blind contour, which you're already familiar with and you've gotten to practice a couple of times in class and at home. But for this one, we're going to make a really nice blind contour. Even if it takes 10 tries, we're going to get the blind contour just right. The second part will be a negative space drawing, very similar to the one we did of the elephant, where we drew the negative space shapes and then we colored them in and left a white elephant. And the last one, the final part of the triptych, the third part, is a shaded and detailed drawing of your image. And in a minute I'm going to talk about how to pick an image, a proper image. So I will just briefly show you what these three are going to look like. Here's an example that I made of a horse. All right, so I picked a picture of a horse, and I'll talk about why this image is a good choice. Was a good choice for me. You're going to have to pick your own image, but I'm going to tell you what the criteria are. Criteria are aspects that we're looking for that have to meet certain standards. All right, so here you see part one. I made a blind contour, and as you can see, it's a little bit crazy, a little bit messed up, but at the same time, it also looks like a horse. And the way you would test that whether you're done is you would ask people, what do you think this looks like? And if they can tell you what it looks like, you probably did a good blind contour. And of course, as with all blind contours, we go slowly and you press hard with your pencil and you don't take your pencil off the paper. I went in, I didn't just stick to the outside, I also went in and did details that are inside as well. And the way you do that is you just keep your pencil on the paper, but you just kind of double back on some of the lines, and then you just keep going around the outside part. Now this will look familiar. This is a negative space picture right here. So what I did was I focused on the negative spaces. Now you can see that not all of my negative spaces are nice and white like we had with the elephant. Some of them will actually have background in it. So you can see there's grass here and some trees and stuff. So when you see stuff in the negative space, you just have to kind of ignore it, and you just have to focus on what shapes are there, and hopefully you can see them very clearly. So you can see after I drew all the negative space shapes and I was pretty sure that they made an accurate picture of the horse, I went ahead and colored in the shapes, and that was part two. Now part three looks very detailed. I haven't actually taught you that. That's going to be in another video. What I did was I started with a completely gray background, and then what I did was I erased out all the light parts that were on the horse and on the sky, and then I added dark for shadows and stuff. So I added dark where I needed it. I'm going to teach you that in another video, so don't worry about that right now. But this is what the three parts of your final project are going to look like. So first let's talk about picking an image that will work. Okay, now this is a black and white photocopy, and you will be working off of a black and white image because whatever picture you email me, I'm going to print it in black and white, and that's what you're going to work from. The reason that this is a good image, first of all, the most important thing about the image is it has to be something that you really like. And I'll tell you why. Because when you work on something like this, it's going to take you a long time. And when you're done with it, it's going to be very difficult. But when you're done with it, you want to be able to hang it up in your room or in your house where you're going to be happy to look at it all the time, forever maybe. So make sure you pick something that you actually really like. Don't just go for the first thing that you find, okay? So you have to really stop and think, what do I want a picture of hanging in my room? go with that, and then start looking for good pictures. Now, the reason this is a good picture, there are 3 reasons why this is a good picture. Number 1, it has cool edges, all right? So you can see that the edge of this image, which is a horse, I'll say it's not an object, I guess it's an animal. So you can see that the edges, they go up and down. There's parts where it's kind of shaggy, and then there's parts that are smooth, and the edges change a lot, and they go in and out, and they make cool angles, and it's definitely interesting edges, okay? So that's one thing. You don't want to pick just like a round object. Like, even if you're crazy about basketball or soccer, do not pick a ball, because a ball by itself just doesn't have very interesting edges, okay? You can pick an athlete kicking a ball, that would be fine, or even a close-up of a leg kicking a ball, or someone with their hands on a basketball, that would probably be fine. And obviously you're going to show me your image so I can help you make good choices. Okay, so that's number 1, the edges are interesting. Number 2, there's interesting negative space. So as I look around, these shapes are cool. I like the way they look. They all look different. This one's different from this one, is different from this one. This one wraps around in an interesting way. This one comes up here. It's very interesting. When I look at this, I get excited about the negative space shapes. I think they look fantastic, and I can't wait to draw them. That's when you know it's a good picture. And the very last criteria is that there has to be light and shadow on the shape. So even though this is a dark colored horse, it's catching light in some areas, and then some areas it's catching very dark shadow. So you can see this leg is definitely in the background. It's got a lot of shadow on it. That's why it's so much darker than this leg. This leg's in the light. It's got some cast shadow on it, but it's mostly a medium gray, okay? So even though this horse is dark, it has some darker parts and it has some slightly lighter parts. And then there's also some nice contrast with the light sky and everything. So, and you can choose to ignore the background in your picture if you want to for your final one, for your 3rd drawing. That's fine, but you can discuss it with me. We'll figure out what to do. So those are the 3 criteria for a good drawing, for a good image. And your homework this week is to find an image of something or several images that you really like. And I want you to email them to me, okay, at njuarez@dayspringag.org. Once you've emailed it to me, I will look at your choices and I will decide which one I think is the best one. If you only have one, I'll let you know if it's good or bad. I'll probably email you back. So please don't save it to the last minute. I want you to email me early on after our art class so that I can have some time to shoot you back an email, and you can, if you need to, pick another image. I do not want this to drag on for many, many weeks where you're looking for an image, because that will really slow you down. You can't pick this, you can't start this project till you have an image, and I can't help you until you have an image. So please just jump right on this and use your phone, use whatever device you want, but you're going to have to surf the net for awesome images. Now, if you would like to have this project go to ACSI Art Festival, I would recommend you take your own picture. Maybe pose your family pet. Maybe you have a dog. If you pose it against the sky and take a cool picture of your dog against the sky, or against a wall or something, so you have a simple background. Try to make sure it's in the sun so that the light and shadow will be on it. You put your favorite pair of sneakers on display, or your favorite pair of sneakers and a ball. Just giving you some ideas. You have a favorite stuffed animal or a doll or something, pose it and take a picture of it with maybe a lamp putting light on it. Those would be eligible for ACSI. They don't allow us to use photographs that were taken by another artist. They kind of frown on that. So if you don't care, then that's fine. We'll still put your project up at Fine Arts Night. But if you do want to be considered for ACSI, you're going to need to take your own photo and, of course, show it to me so I can make sure that it's going to be clear enough and have meet all of the criteria. Okay? So this project will be due by the end of the semester. You are welcome to take it home and work on it. It's going to be done in 3 parts, so you'll have 3 separate pieces of paper. You can work on any part you want anytime. I recommend starting with blind contour. I think you learn a lot about your image from doing the blind contour and the negative space. Those 2 would be the ones I would start with, because you learn the most about your image. And then by the time you've kind of studied it and learned it, when you do your final 3rd one, which is probably the hardest one, it's going to come a lot easier. So Look for the other video where I will show you how to do that third and final shaded drawing, okay? And if you have any questions, you can email me or ask me in class. All right, thank you. Looking forward to seeing your projects.